Do just I don't know why I should always gotta do that. The camera because of last night. I already have my shoes on. I was cleaning a little, in the garage. I got rid of a couple bags. That's good. I found these like leggings, like pants. Um and I got my socks. I thought I would go to try to put the heels on too. Um no, go away. Okay. Wait, why are you having to do that? Go to bed. Go on. Go away. Stop. Okay. All right. Go away. Good girl. Bruce Buffer voice. Yes, and you know, I I've been depressed every single second that I've been awake today. I mean, I'm certain I was in my sleep and when I tried to fall asleep, and I'm certain people hate me for that because they hate me anyway. Certainly for having feelings. And I just wanted to, I don't know, maybe I thought you could put it in a bottle, throw it out, and maybe somebody will find it and let me know if they can relate and what they do. Well, everyone's situation is different, but if I if you tell yourself, um, maybe it'll get better in a minute, it doesn't. Maybe it'll get better in an hour, it doesn't. Maybe it'll get better by the end of the day, it doesn't. It's just long, extended, painful suffering doesn't end. If I would have thought a year ago it would be better today, I would have been wrong, but I got coffee there. I put it in the fridge after, so it's just like lukewarm because I don't have ice. So, but I do have a coffee. Um, and I'm hoping. Mm, okay, hoping we'll have a nice read. Yeah, and I found this shirt too. It says um San Francisco. Okay. You can hang out there if you want, but be in the way. Mm. I know that it is probably on tonight, but hoping to just go to sleep like earlier if I can, because I gotta be up early. In the morning. Yeah. Okay. So, I think where we left off, they were in the pool at his house and um, getting intimate before his challenge. Okay. Drake, are you here? We will be late for the Pal's voice echoed slightly in the room. Drake swore into my mouth. I made embarrassed eking noises and sank into the water until I was submerged to my neck, my arms over my breast. Pal had his back to us, evidently examining a water pipe that ran across the ceiling. I'm sorry to disturb you, but the chevauchee is to commence in 15 minutes. Shall I tell Dmitri that you will be delayed? Yes, Mark, unfortunately, I remember you. If that's the horrible thing, my memory isn't completely gone yet. Um, you were banned, so you're not that familiar with me since you've been banned from my OF. For harassing me and pretending you're my dead father. Um, not only have I never wanted to be with you, I very, very, very much dislike you. And I know I'm not really allowed to say that because people hate me for not enjoying people pretending to be my dead father. But really, really, I find you quite creepy. Okay, where was I? Drake swore again. His lips, thank you, Terry, hot on mine as he gave me a quick, hard kiss that promised almost as much as the look in his eyes. That would give him the opportunity to claim I defaulted on the challenge. I am ready. I cocked an eyebrow at his naked butt as he strode over to his clothing, snatching up a towel from a nearby stack. Okay, it'll take me a few minutes to get ready, but I can put on makeup in the car. You cannot attend the chevauchée, Kinsem. It is a ritual cleansing for the combatants only. There's no need for you to hurry. Isfan will remain behind to bring you to the fencing club. Yes. Is there something wrong with that? He pulled on his black pants and the heavy silk green shirt I loved for him to wear because the material seemed to caress his skin. No, it's just kind of an incongruous place to hold something so serious as a challenge, isn't it? He finished with his shoes, grabbed another towel, and shook it out for me. I made sure Pal still had his back to me, hurrying out of the pool to clasp the towel around me. It is no less congruous incongruous than holding a challenge in a bar, I smiled. Yes, but my challenge to you wasn't serious. I hope you'll notice that I'm not freaking out about this at all. I haven't even asked you how good you are with a sword. I noticed. His mouth burned on mine for a moment, his fire being shared between us as his tongue twined around mine in a fiery, albeit brief, dance. You are learning to have faith in me, as is proper between a mate and her wyver. No, I am learning to ask around. Pal told me earlier today that Dmitri had picked swords and that you were pleased because you were some sort of master swordsman a few centuries ago. You better not have forgotten anything. Hal peeked at me out of the corner of his eye, his grin not too obvious. Drake pinched my bare behind as punishment for my saucy tone. I never forget. This fun will drive you when you are ready. The challenge is not for an hour. Do not be late. Happy chevauching, I called, feeling remarkably happy. Pal hesitated at the door. There was another phone call for you, but I thought you were resting. Phone? Who was it? Just about everyone I knew on this side of the world was in the same house as me. Apparently, it was the demon lord Araton. My demon lords make phone calls. Oh, thank you, Samuel. I sighed. Him again? What a pest. Did you take a message? Yes, he said. If you will not come to him, he will come to you. Pal's eyes were dark as he considered me. You are not in some sort of trouble? Just the usual stuff. Ah, should I inform Drake? No, I've got Nora to help me if Araton gets bossy. Thanks for covering me, though. Pal left with a cheery smile that I wholeheartedly shared. Life was finally starting to come together for me. Oh, there were trouble spots, but nothing I couldn't handle. I just had a demon lord to placate. And a dragon war to end, and the Guardians Guild to convince. No big deal, really, I said aloud as I walked over to the bench. Behind me, a glass tinkled to the stone floor. Before I could turn to look, something stung my back right between my shoulder blades. I was out even before I hit the floor. Chapter 19. A lot more like violence in this book, at least against her. I mean, well, I know there was a lot of murders, like especially the first one. So far, no. What are they? Um, incubus. The voices around me were not speaking English for some reason. That grated on my nerves. It is very rude to speak in a language that people can't understand, my voice said. I frowned at the sound. I wasn't aware I'd given my mouth the order to speak, but then I didn't quite understand why I was drifting somewhere on a gently rolling dark cloud of oblivion. Or who was standing near me talking in a lyrical foreign language? The voices stopped. Kara, you are with us again. I frowned again. That voice was familiar, as was the brush of cool fingers across my neck. My shoulders twitched in response. God damn it, Fiat. What have you done to me? Why can't I see? Do I have a blindfold on? Did you cast some sort of a binding spell on me? His voice was filled with dry humor. Nothing quite so drastic. Your eyes are closed, Kara. You will see again if you open them. Oh, I thought about that for a moment, wondering why something so simple seemed to take such an exaggerated amount of time to be processed in my brain. The answer came a few seconds later. The sting on my back He'd shot me, and I was in shock. So I think it's, so far, my understanding is that they can die. Like, she could have died if she got hit by the train. I think something with the head, like getting beheaded. So that's why the sword through her chest was not deadly. It's so reminding me actually of Frankenstein. I just watched last night. I thought it was very good. I never seen another version, so and I hadn't read the book either. Although many people are very fond of the book, but I've not read it. Anyway, like he could be harmed and not die either, but it would take time to like sometimes repair himself. So yeah. Well, I don't know what Highlander is. Um, do you need help? The cool fingers were back, this time gently pulling one of my eyelids upward. My eye rolled up and took its time, focusing on the blurry figure in front of me. And now the other one. I can do it myself, I grumbled, slapping at his hand. I got my other eyelid opened and my gaze focused, but it took far longer than it should have. You drugged me or something? I regret that is so. There was no other way to get you out of Drake's house. That filtered through the drug-induced haze in my mind. I a thought formed right after that, a good thought, a welcome thought. I opened my mouth to give a voice to it. Ever, Jim, a hand slapped over my mouth. I do not believe we need your demon along for the evening's events, Fiat said. I realized then that I was lying on my side along the seat of a car, which explained the rolling motion. I propped my head up to glare at Fiat, but it swam so badly I let it fall back to the seat. You will feel the effects of the drug for a short while yet. I'm afraid if I have your assurance that you will not try to summon your minion, I will release you. I was very aware of Fiat's cool fingers on my mouth. It was not a pleasant sensation. I thought about what he was saying, tried to figure out any reason he had for kidnapping me from Drake's house, and decided there wasn't much I could do in the current circumstances. I gave a sharp nod of agreement. Excellent. Now, you no doubt. Ephraim, I summon thee, I said at warp speed the second his fingers left my lips. Fiat sighed as the familiar, furry black shape of Jim formed and solidified in front of me. Wow, you're naked, Ash. Hi, Fiat. Hi, Ronaldo. We're going for a ride? Carefully, so as not to dislodge the towel I still wore wrapped around my torso, and, more important, to give my head time to cope with movement. I sat upright in the seat, glaring at both Fiat and Rinaldo, his bodyguard, who sat next to him, blatantly ogling me. Eyes up here, I told the latter, pointing to my face, one hand making sure the towel was securely tucked into itself. Fortunately, it was long enough that it went almost to my knees, so there wasn't too much of me exposed, if you can call being kidnapped while clad in a towel not too exposed. Nice car, Jim said, looking around. Does it run to snacks? For a moment, a chink showed in Fiat's armor. Kara, I must insist that you control your demon. What? I haven't done anything. I didn't point out that your limo isn't as big as Drake's, or that you got a nasty scuff on one of your shoes, or even that someone stuck a wad of gum under your seat. I've been good. I smiled at Jim, both relieved and somewhat reassured by its presence. Jim may not be much protection, but we had made it out of some sticky situations together. A flash of true anger showed in Fiat's clear blue eyes. If you do not subdue your demon, I will do it for you. You and what army? Hang out. I pulled on Jim's collar as the demon bared its teeth. Jim, stop being rude. Fiat, stop picking on Jim. It hasn't done anything. Its mere existence offends me. It was a bit surprised by the vehemence in his voice. Fiat showed even less emotion than, or I was a bit surprised. Fiat showed even less emotion than Drake, but this time the naked anger was visible for a moment before his usual polite, handsome Greek god mask settled into place. I am going to be quiet, I finished for Jim, until I say otherwise. Jim shot me a look, but I ignored it to level a quelling glare at Fiat. I don't have time for your odd games. I have no idea what you think you're proving by kidnapping me, but I don't have time to find out. I have to go to a challenge. That is where I am taking you, Kara. Do not get your his gaze dropped to the bare lower half of my thigh, panties in a twist. Jim bared its teeth again, silently this time. I put a warning hand on its head, gently stroking its ears. I knew when I was deliberately being baited, and I wasn't going to lose my cool with Fiat. Speaking of that, you couldn't have kidnapped my clothing along with me? Fiat smiled. Unfortunately, I told Ronaldo to acquire you. I did not think so to specify that you should be clothed first. Not that it is difficult to look upon you as you are. I tugged the towel down my thigh a smidgen. Let's start this whole conversation over again. Why are you kidnapping me? Kara, 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 he said, tisking and shaking his head at me in mock sorrow. So demanding, so forceful. If I did not know better, I would think you were a dragon. Where are we going? Why did you kidnap me? I asked again, keeping firmly to the subject that mattered. Fiat was notorious for banter, but I didn't have time for that any more than I had time for an impromptu kidnapping. He spread his hands wide. Such antagonism. Do you not trust me to keep you safe? Trust you? I goggled at him. He had to be insane. And yet, I am the one who saved you recently from certain death. I understand that the red dragons have dealt a death sentence upon you. Surely you cannot fear one who has saved you from their wrath. I don't fear you, Fiat. I'm annoyed by you and these games you insist on playing, nothing more. And stop trying to get into my mind. The no trespassing sign is up, if you haven't noticed. Ever since I'd woken up, I was aware of the brush of his mind against mine, trying to get into the inner sanctum to read my thoughts. But one of the first things I had learned when entering the other world was how to close my thoughts from Fiat and his sept of mind readers. Bow feels crooked today. You have a nice channel. It's like I'm listening to black metal. How many colors of metal are there to listen to? Is there like a rainbow metal, a pink, yellow metal? Mm. He sighed an exaggerated, martyred sound. Hmm. Very well. I can see you are in no mood for polite talk. You are coming with me to the challenge of your mate because there is something I wish to do there, and you are vital to my success. Fiat, so help me, if this is another one of your attempts to cause trouble between Drake and the other wyverns, I'll. A smile flirted with his lips, his eyes mirroring the amusement. You are naked and in my power, surrounded by my men. What exactly do you think you have to threaten me with? I sat up a little straighter. I'm a guardian. I have resources. Perhaps, but in this instance, you are helpless. And if you attempt to escape me, as you have done in the past, he leaned forward and placed a hand on my knee. I tried to brush it off, but his fingers tightened. Jim's lips pulled back in a silent growl. I will be forced to subdue you, and that, Kara, I can assure you, will not be pleasant. If you cooperate, all will be well. Divine well. He let go of my knee and sat back. You will be with your mate. What is it that you want me to do? Very simple. He brushed off an infinitesimal bit of dirt from his pants. I want you to. The car slammed to a stop with a horrible shriek of brakes applied to tires. The back end of the limo fishtailed out to the side, sending the occupants of the back flying to the opposite side, bodies colliding, limbs entangled, and in my case, my head crushing painfully into the door handle. I touched the top of my head, my fingers coming away red. Holy ow, I'm bleeding. Ow, what happened? Thea and Jim were tangled together on the floor, each trying to rise by using the other as leverage. Beneath them both was Ronaldo. Before anyone could answer me, the door was slumped against, opened, and I tumbled out to the ground, striking my head again. Mm, right, that's it. I officially call an end to today. I'm going home and I'm going to bed until it's over. I rolled over onto my side and propped myself up on one hand. A pair of shoes appeared next to me, attached to a woman's legs. I followed the legs up. And to the rest of the person, the Lord Araton wishes to see you now. Oh, thank you, Jerry. Terry. What? Have you drove a limo before? But not in a video game. Mm. Oh, hi, Obadama. I grabbed Jim's collar in an attempt to help me to my feet. Sorry about those guardians sending you back to Abba before I could finish the sentence. Obadama grabbed both hands around my neck and yanked me backwards, wrenching me with a horrible, sickening feeling right through the fabric of time and space. It was such a nauseating experience that when I was released, I fell to my knees and vomited right on the middle of Araton's plush Victorian rug, one of my hands still wrapped around Jim's collar. The demon didn't say anything, but its cold nose pressed against my cheek in sympathy as I clutched myself and tried to keep from barfing a second time. You come at last, Araton said, rising from behind his desk, his eyes narrowing as I wiped a tendril of saliva off my lips. Do you think I'm such a fool that I do not see through your idiotic scheme to put me off? Who are you working with? Araton grabbed me by my hair and brutally yanked me to my feet. I squawked with pain and outrage. What are you talking about? I'm not working with anyone. I'm sorry I've been too busy to see you, but silence, he bellowed. See, again, another person being violent with her. The room spun before my eyes for a moment as I tried to regain my wits. You will cease this deception. I'm not deceiving you, I snarled back at him, pain chasing fear enough that it kept me on my feet. I have never been one to take abuse, and I wasn't about to let Iraton be the first. And you can stop with the rough treatment. I am a fellow demon lord. You can't treat me like that. Oh, thank you, Mike, for being a member for 2 months. He laughed, a horrible sound that made my soul weep. Do you seriously believe I cannot destroy you where you stand? I rubbed the back of my head as he walked around me. Obadama stood next to the door, a sentinel of silence. Jim sat a few feet away, its eyes dark and unfathomable as it watched us. I could order Jim to attack Araton. There was no way it had the power to defeat a demon lord. Hmm. So she's in the limo with the silver dragons, the blue dragons. Sorry, Gabriel's a silver. Okay, so they're kidnapping her, and then she gets kidnapped again by someone else. It's a lot. She gets kidnapped all the time. I lifted my chin on the principle that offense was the best defense. I am immortal. You cannot destroy me. A slow, blood-chilling smile slid across his face. Not kill, no, but there are other forms of death. There are ways to destroy your mind but leave your body intact. That's sick. A horror skittered down my back at the depth of evil in his eyes. You cannot kill a demon lord, but you can destroy one once you have the soul. You can render the physical form inert and banish the essence of what remains to the Akashic plane, where it will be trapped, powerless for an eternity. Demons don't have souls, I said, my voice a croak. The power that surrounded him in a dark aura snapped around me, sending little frissions of pain deep into my being. But demon lords do. It is what gives us our power. Would you like to see how that power can destroy you, guardian? I licked my lips. I knew as I did it, Eraton could smell the fear on me, but I was struggling as it was to keep a grip on myself in the face of sheer, utter, and almost incomprehensible evil. I think I'll pass on that. He turned away, his voice as smooth and polished as it had been the first time I'd met him. You will tell me with whom you are working, or I will break your body, corrupt your soul, and banish you to an eternity of torment. Every inch of my body broke out into a terrified cold sweat as I frantically looked around the room, desperate for some way to escape, or something I could do to distract Eraton long enough to get away. But other than Jim and Eraton's minion, we were alone. There were no weapons, no handy demon lord begone spray, not even the slightest hint of an idea of what I was going to do to get out of this. I really wish I could help you, but I just can't. I'm not working with anyone, I told Eraton, desperation swamping me. Ask him about his soul. A voice spoke into my ear. My head snapped around to the left, but there was no one there. Ask him to show it to you. It's a pretty good indicator of the state of my mind that I ignored the suspicion that arose as to the wisdom of following the disembodied advice from who knew what, being for the first time in my life, I was truly terrified, not for my body, which I was sure would survive just about anything, but for my soul. If that was destroyed, it would mean Drake's death as well. The other demon lord I'd had a brief brush with had been frightening, but everything had happened so quickly. I hadn't really had time to be terror stricken. This time was different. About your soul, I started to say. Eraton closed his eyes, lifted both hands toward me, and began to chant. Each word he spoke struck my body like a barbed missile, pain sweeping through me. Frantic, I pulled on Drake's dragon fire to give me strength. If you're going to destroy me, the least you can do is tell me why demon lords have souls if demons don't. You're bigger and badder and infinitely more nasty than any one demon. So why do you get to have a soul? A little flicker of relief rose in me when Araton paused his cursing or whatever he was doing to destroy me in order to answer my question. You mock me with these foolish questions, pretending ignorance for some reason I cannot fathom. You know of the fallen. You know of the 6 classes of demons. I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to keep from screaming for mercy. Araton was clearly not going to believe me if I tried to convince him of my innocence in the ways of demons and their lords. Of course I know, but you were born human, not a demon. And as a weak mortal, I was burdened with that most heinous of gifts, a conscience. Once I rid myself of that, once I purified myself by bathing in the pool of the Dark Master, Then I became what you see. You wish to see my soul, guardian? Be ready. The voice to my left spoke into my head. Ready for what? Every inch of my body sweated beads of sheer terror. What was I supposed to be ready for? Behold, the true being, the one form. Eraton threw open his arms. A brilliant black light bursting from his chest, creating a corona of pure power around him. Banish it now, the voice screamed in my head. Send it to Akasha, and you will be free of him forever. Banish? Like I did when I sent Jim to the Akashic plane? I didn't stop to think. I didn't reason out whether or not trying to banish a being so well versed in dark power was a smart move. I didn't pause for even a second to consider what such an act might do to me. I had no choice. Either I saved myself or Araton would destroy me. And by association, Drake and Jim as well. The mental door in my mind was flung wide open as I welcomed the roar of Drake's fire pouring through me. Araton, known as Egan, seventh prince of Abaddon, leader of the 22 legions, by this light, by my virtue, by my being, I do banish thee. Araton clearly wasn't expecting that from me because he stared at me in surprise for the count of three before releasing a roar of such hideousness. The walls around us cracked. You dare! Power, black and evil, washed over me as he recommenced his chanting. I struggled to breathe, my body beginning to fail under the influence of his will. Do it again. Banish him now. It is your only chance. Through a miasma of pain and sorrow and abject terror, I saw Jim's face for a second. It was twisted with sadness, pain, and regret so deep in his eyes it made me weep. It also brought me renewed strength of mind. I was a professional, damn it. I was not going to go down without a fight. I pulled hard on Drake's fire, erupting around me until I stood in a veritable inferno, one hand reaching for Jim. The demon didn't have any power as such, but it made me feel better to have my hand on it as I made a final, last-ditch attempt to save us. Eraton, known as Egan, I bellowed, channeling the dragon fire straight at the demon lord. It met his dark power, colliding into a fireball. The resulting flash of light blinded me, but I didn't pause to wait for it to dissipate. Seventh Prince of Abaddon, leader of the 22 legions. You will bother me no longer, guardian. Be gone. Little bits of me started to tear off. Not my body, bits of my soul. Mm. Ooh. Ripped from me and destroyed with the chant Eraton took up again. Do it now, the voice shrieked in my ear. Use the power, banish him. I lowered my head, pulling on Drake's fire for all I was worth, but it wasn't enough. I could feel the chant working on me, pulling me apart, destroying not just my mind, but my very being, the essence that made up the core of my soul. No, I will not allow this. My words ripped from my throat in a voice I did not recognize. The door in my head opened wide to allow me access to all the possibilities. Suddenly was flooded with a hot, sticky warmth, black and thick. It filled me with wrath, filled my rage to unimaginable heights, burning deep and dark alongside Drake's fire. By this light I banished thee. I lifted my head to look at Eraton, filled with so much power it glowed around me. in a strange coppery aura. Jim said something, but I paid the demon no attention. That was solely focused on channeling this newfound power into the will to destroy the demon lord. Eraton screamed at me, words that cut into my flesh like honed blades, but I laughed at the pain. It didn't matter. None of it mattered. My whole being, my whole purpose was to destroy this being in front of me, and destroy him I would. By my virtue I banish thee. A noise like a tornado ripping apart a house crashed over me. Eraton was screaming in horror now, his body twisting and whipping around itself as the power flowed from me, wrapping around his form in tendrils of destruction. No, this cannot be. This cannot. By my being, I do banish thee. My voice rose high and piercing over Eraton's screams, painful even for me to hear. With the final words, I gathered up everything I had, every ounce of rage, every morsel of terror, every atom of spirit that dwelt within me, and blasted Eraton with it. He exploded in a nova of blackness that slammed Jim and me against the wall. As I slid to the floor, my body rigid with agony, a voice spoke with quiet contentment. Well done, Ashling Gray, Prince of Abaddon. Chapter 20. Prince! She's a prince now! What? This transgendering has gone too far. Make her princess. No, I told the voice, pulling myself to my knees. Tell me you didn't say what I think you just said. I said you're crying blood. Your eyes are different too. You didn't happen to channel any dark power, did you? It was Jim's voice that answered me, not the voice that had spoken so urgently into my head. What? Dark power? Oh, God. That was the warm, dark, thick feeling that had filled me a few seconds ago. Loathing rose within me to swamp all the other emotions twisting around my gut. I had used dark power, the most dangerous, most forbidden of all powers, the meat and manna to dark beings. I would be damned forever now. No, I didn't mean to. I don't know. How can you blame her when she was literally about to, she was about to lose her soul, falling piece by piece. She didn't know what to do. And poor Jim was crying. Mm. I looked around the room as if someone had written out the answers in big, easily read letters, but there was nothing. The room looked a bit worse for wear after the struggle between Araton and myself, and there was a nasty black stain with rays that spread out across the floor where he had been standing, but nothing more. And there should have been something, someone whom I had last seen next to the door. Obadama? No, although I used its form for a bit, the demon answered, but it wasn't Obadama's voice. It was another voice, a familiar voice, one that made my stomach clench tight with dread. From the black shadows Eraton's passing had left on the floor, a figure gathered in the air and formed into that of a man. What do you mean used Obadama's? Oh my god, he's so confused. What? was still shaken by the events with Eraton, not to mention sick with the thought of having tainted my powers. But I was not a coward. Peter Burke, I should have known you'd be bound up in this somehow. Who exactly are you? And why were you pretending to be Obadama? Why did you have me kill your master? Peter laughed. He looked perfectly normal, dressed in a conservative polo shirt. Mm, mm, and pants. But his face, well, some people just don't like their master. What can you say? And eyes were as expressionless as ever. The feeling of power that rolled off him was bad, very bad. Araton was not my master. He was not, in fact, an overly bright being. I used Obadama's form to keep tabs on him for years, and he never noticed the difference. In truth, you did us all a favor by banishing him. I have every confidence that you will rule much wiser in his stead. No, 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 I said, groaning as I got to my feet. I was more than a little bit surprised to discover that my towel was still covering me. Ugh, smudged and dirty from the demon smoke, and chalky with debris from the plaster walls, but still present. I tucked an end of it a little tighter, automatically brushing it off. I don't know why you've been trying to manipulate me to be the manager, but you're absolutely insane if you think I'm going to be a full-fledged demon lord. I'm grateful you showed me the way to destroy Araton, but I am not now, nor will I ever be, a prince of Abaddon. Peter's face was completely impassive. I know it should be princess, but we've never had a reigning female demon lord. We tend to be very set in our traditions here. We? You mean you're not just a demon? Do you really believe me to be so insignificant? He laughed, his peculiar, humorless laugh. Okay, let's back up a couple steps. My head felt like it was going to explode. Maybe if I went through everything one point at a time, I could keep from actually going insane. First of all, I'm not reigning anything. Either the other world or a demon lord's position in Abaddon. I have one little demon, and it's not a particularly bad specimen. In addition, I have no intention of taking part in any of the politics you guys are so wrapped in. And finally, I took a deep breath, my faint control snapping. What the hell did you do to me to make me use dark power? Peter just looked at me with cold, blank eyes. Jim's cold nose touched my hand in warning. I looked down at my demon, puzzled why it didn't speak. That's when the penny dropped. You're a demon, Lord. He bowed. It lacked all the panache of the dragon's courtly moves. I have that honor, yes. I'm surprised you did not recognize me, since you've summoned me in the past. I have? I racked my brain to think of the time I'd summoned a demon lord. Yet another penny dropped. You're Baal, also known as Beelzebub. I wondered if you would recognize me. I took great pains to disguise myself to you. But I should have known who you were. I'm a guardian. I should have felt something different about you. There are some benefits to being the premier prince of Abaddon, he said with a faint scowl. The deathless look in his eyes made shivers go up my back into my hair. The ability to use glamours that can fool even other princes of Abaddon is one of them. Why are you doing this to me? I asked, my question coming out a near wail. Why would you try to get me to be Venenager if all you wanted was for me to banish Araton? My plans are many, and you have a significant role to play in them, Peter answered. I couldn't stand to think of him as Baal, the head demon lord of Abaddon, the one who was going to be thrown down from power in a few days. I brushed away a few tears of horror. This is about power, isn't it? You're due to be booted from the big kid's chair, and you don't want to go. Would you? I shook my head. This isn't about me and what I want. I want power here. My skin crawled at the realization of what was behind his manipulations to put me in position of manager. And in the other world, you plan on using me to rule both worlds, don't you? Peter strolled past me and examined a bookshelf behind Araton's desk. And there are some who say you are not particularly bright. Was it you who tried to kill me? My dear, if I wanted you dead, you would have been so before the thought left my mind. That shot was just to bring you to Araton's house in case he bungled his plan to use you. It doesn't matter. I shook my head. I won't do it. It won't help you here, and I won't help you in the other world. I'm one of the good guys. I refuse to be part of this. Do you really think you have that choice? Peter snarled at me, slamming down a book on the desk. Despite what you believe, you are now a prince of hell. You have toppled Araton from power. That automatically gives you his place on the council. Far from one demon, you now lead 22 legions of demons and demonkind. I stared at the demon lord before me, my mind crawling around, unable to shake off the horrible, paralyzing sense of shame, fear, and loathing that consumed me. You tricked me into banishing Araton? Tricked. Perhaps I prefer to think of it as enlightenment. I showed you a possibility. You acted upon it. Baal made a dismissive movement with his hands that brought fresh tears to my eyes. How? I'm just a guardian. I have one demon. I don't have the sort of power needed to banish a demon lord. Not on your own, no. Peter walked around the desk and shuffled through some of Araton's papers. But, quite cleverly, you used Araton's power against him. I didn't know. I clutched the nearest chair, sinking into it as my legs went boneless. I wanted to weep until my tears washed away everything in my existence. Channeling a demon lord's power is not anything I've done before. I didn't know that was what I was doing. I was just trying to save my life. And you succeeded extremely well. You show great potential, Ashling Gray. I will be happy to have you at my side as my lieutenant. I will not be anyone's lieutenant. Bile rose in my throat. I swallowed hard to shove it down. I don't want to be a demon lord. I don't want legions. I don't want to be a prince of Abaddon. I hereby officially abdicate the position. Hatred, pure and deep, flared to life in his dark eyes, causing me to recoil against the back of the chair. The hairs on the backs of my arms stood on end. Jim pressed tight against me, clearly trying to lend support. It did little good. There is no abdication. You are or you are not. He seemed to grow until he filled my vision. my body trembling in response to the threat he presented. It swamped me, drenched me in the absolute conviction that he could and would destroy my body and leave my soul in perpetual torment. There is no gray area where Abaddon is concerned. Do not believe that you can put me off the way you did Eraton. You will either agree to support me as I continue to rule Abaddon, or I will destroy you. Right here, right now. Decide. And see, when you put it like that, that's not a decision. It's like saying, you know, give me give me that flamingo right here, that, or I'll kill your dog. It's like, I don't want to do that. Daryl gave me that flamingo, but what am I going to do? And it's like, well, you decided to get rid of the flamingo. I mean, what the hell? Mm, rude. I believed him. This was my existence on the line. I looked at Jim. What are my chances? Truthfully, Jim shook its head. Nada. My heart fell. I was trapped, bound, wrapped in the chains of my own ignorance, with no possible way out. I curled up into a little ball on the chair, my soul sick with the knowledge of what I'd become. It came down to a matter of survival, pure and simple. Either I agreed to do what he wanted, or he'd kill me. Period. Shame filled me at the knowledge that I was too weak to die with honor. I agree. His body shrunk back to its normal size, the overpowering sense of threat lightening somewhat. Excellent. Ah, it would seem Eraton has some outstanding debts. I'm sure you'll want to take care of those quickly. It seems he's borrowed money from the Furies, and we all know how unpleasant they can be when crossed. Peter dropped the stack of papers he was going through. Such a long face. I think you'll find Eraton's position won't be too demanding upon you. He was the seventh prince, not one of the four. He held no important positions. To be honest, he was more concerned these last few hundred years with materialistic concerns than ones in Abaddon. No honor amongst demons. Yeah, I'm just like, you know what? If you can't beat them, then join them. It's like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, girl? Mm, hey, I have a question. Okay. Where is Drake and all this men? That's the thing. Drake, it was like doing that challenge ritual that she can't be part of. And I thought that's why Fiat took her. It's because he knew Drake couldn't be with her. So, but yeah, but here she's in some like, I don't know, like demonic realm. I don't know if he has access to. I don't know. Let's see. If he was so minor and unimportant, why did you use me to get rid of him? I asked, lifting my head from where it had been resting on my knees. Peter smiled again. You're much quicker than he was. This will work out very well, I think. It is true that Eraton held no special threat to me. Mm. But He was annoying in his persistent belief that he could hold the throne of Abaddon. I felt the time was right for him to be destroyed and another put in his place before I made it clear to the other demon lords that I would not be stepping down as they expected. I sighed, sick, filled with anguish and pain, and with no idea what I was going to do to get out of the situation. Can I leave now? There's no need to ask my permission. You are my lieutenant, not a servant. Ah, this, I think, will summon it. Peter pressed a bell set into the desk. In the distance of the house, a buzzing noise echoed dimly, almost immediately followed by the shuffling sound of feet approaching. You called for me, my lord Baal? The demon who opened the door appeared as a small, slight man, balding, with silver-rimmed lenses perched on a beaky nose. In its hands, it held a PDA. Tracy, isn't it? Baal asked the demon. Yes. Tracy looked from Peter to me, then to the spot on the floor. Its lips pursed in irritation. I see. If I might be so bold to speak without permission, which of you has banished my lord, my former lord, Eraton? Ashlyn Gray is now your master, Peter said with a wave in my direction. Serve her well. He disappeared even before the last word was out of his mouth, leaving the demon named Tracy alone with Jim and me. You defeated Eraton? I stood up, adjusting my towel. I had brought this on myself, but by God, I was not helpless. Yes, I did. Who are you? I am Tracy, the demon bowed. I was Eraton's steward. And what does a demonic steward do exactly? Tracy seemed to have a perpetually annoyed look on its face, but I could see it was struggling to keep its face as bland as possible. I tended his lordship's business affairs, ran the house, and oversaw the work of the legions. Right. As of this moment, I am putting Ephraim in charge of everything. You can continue to run the business stuff and house, but everything else has to go through Jim or me. Tracy blinked through its glasses at Jim for a moment before turning its gaze back to me. But that is a class 6 demon. And a class 6 demon cannot be in charge of the legions. I put my hands on my hips. If I was going to be a friggin' prince of hell, I was going to be the worst prince of hell there had ever been. Who says so? Tracy's mouth opened and closed a couple of times before it finally managed to say, But, my lord, it has always been that way. Well, things are going to change. I want you to spread the word to the rest of Eraton's minions that, as of this moment, all demonic work is going to cease. There will be no damning anyone, no curses, no tormenting or torturing, or running the souls from innocent people. I have to give the demon credit. It just stood there for a moment, its mouth slack, then shook itself. What about the next release? The what? My Lord Araton, my former Lord Araton, I should say, had his legions at work in the software company. We haven't tormented or cursed or damned anyone for the last 11 years, ever since Araton realized there was much more profit to be had from computer operating systems. What? He wasn't going by the name of Bill, was he? I asked, suddenly suspicious. Tracy shook its head. No, although I can see why you might think that. Araton Enterprises produces operating software for corporate systems. Oh, I chewed on my lip for a minute. Is there anything evil in the system? Many things, Tracy said bluntly. There is a built-in system whereby the software is obsolete almost immediately, thus forcing the client to operate twice a year. Also, specific bugs were planted in it, which will cause minor problems with the system. The patches to fix the bugs have been a particularly lucrative source of income the last few years. I waved that away. Is there anything dangerous to people? Anything really evil? Tracy blinked a couple more times. Eraton didn't see profit in that, so we discontinued the damnation module. Okay, then you can keep everyone working on that. Just remember, no one is to do anything evil without permission from Jim or myself. As you desire, the demon said, making a note on its phone. Great. Oh, crap. Look at the time. I've got to get to the fencing club. I eyed Tracy for a moment. I don't suppose you have any woman's clothing here, do you? I could swear I looked startled. No, I do not. Damn. How about conjuring up something for me? Parading around in this towel is getting a bit old. It frowned at me. I'm not a magician, Lord. I cannot conjure anything. Well, that's just great. What am I going to use for clothes then? I would assume that's your responsibility, Tracy said, with an irritated sniff. Yeah, assume again, demon. Tracy, I order thee to get me something to wear. 5 minutes later, I narrowed a look at Jim that would have gutted a lesser demon. One word, one single word about Scarlet O'Hara, and it's off to the neuterer for you. Jim walked around me, eyeing the toga-like covering that Tracy had fashioned for me out of the heavy wine-colored velvet drapes. I'm not saying a word. Good. I took a deep breath and tied tighter the gold braid that served as a belt. It wasn't haute couture. Hell, it wasn't even a real dress. But it was better than a dirty towel. Did you ever see Carol Burnett's show where she did her parody of Gone with the Wind? Your outfit is 100 times funnier than hers. Shrimp, I told Jim, turning back to Tracy, who was looking rather proud of itself as it tweaked a fold in my toga. I slapped its hand. Is there any special power demon lords have about getting through rush hour traffic really quickly? No, it answered, shaking its head. You can alter time and space, though. Would that help? I looked at Jim. Is that evil? Nah, kind of cool, really, although it hurts like a son of a bitch if you do it wrong. Right. I brushed out my toga and faced Tracy. Show me how to do that, please. A few seconds later, I screamed my way into being, falling through the fabric of space into the sidewalk, cracking both my elbow and my four-abused head. Son of a... Told you, Jim said, grunting as it landed next to me. Ah, man, you have got to take some lessons. I just lost another toe. I pushed myself to my feet, glancing at the back foot it shoved toward me. Around us, the busy evening traffic of London pulsed past, a few people stopping to stare. I lifted my chin, brushed off my curtain, and turned toward the marble pillared doorway of the London Fencing Association. The doorman eyed me warily. I believe I'm expected, I told him. Indeed you are. I'm glad to see you've not suffered any harm, a voice said behind my shoulder. And I didn't need to turn around to guess who was behind me. Cool fingers took my arm in a grip that was borderline painful. This is just not my day. Really? Fiat looked me over. Something is different about you. Did you have your hair done? Oh, for God's sake. This garment is fetching, but I prefer the other. Fiat considered me for another few seconds, then shrugged. I do not understand why you have done what you have so obviously done, but it is of no matter to me. If you do not do exactly as I say, you will not live to see another day. Chapter 21. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, Terry. Are you part of the fencing society? Mm-hmm. Fence this. Fence my ass. I am, in general, an easygoing person. I try to take a reed bending with the wind attitude toward life rather than fight everything. But these constant out of the frying pan into the fire, into a worse fire, into a worse fire than the worst fire before it, situations that have been riddling my life of late were beginning to wear me down. Just once, I'd like something to go right for me. I snapped as Fiat and his men surrounded me. I looked around for any green dragon help, but the lobby of the fencing club was empty. If you do as I tell you, all will be right, Fiat said softly in my ear. Famous last words. You want to offer me a guarantee on my satisfaction? Fiat laughed as he steered me up a staircase, Jim following. I was just formulating a plan whereby Jim attacked two of Fiat's bodyguards while I went after him and the third one, but that idea died quickly. It would not work, Kara. You are physically tired, and Ronaldo and I would easily overpower you, even assuming your demon could disable Pietro and his cousin Berto. No trespassing, I growled, reinforcing the mental barriers to keep Fiat out of my mind. The fact that he'd slipped through them shook me more than I wanted to admit. Fiat on his own was dangerous. Enough Fiat in possession of my thoughts just about made my blood run cold. You make it so easy. Ah, here we are. Fiat indicated a door. It looked like it had led to a central court in the club. I waited until it was a few inches open, then screamed for all I was worth. The noise echoing off the high walls of the corridor into which we just stepped. Fiat caught the bulk of my scream in his right ear. Oh, thank you, Jerry. But I didn't feel any pity for him. He yelled as Ronaldo jumped me, slamming my hand over my mouth, but it did a little good. Too late, I mumbled beneath the hand over my mouth, recognizing the distant voice that bellowed my name. Now, you guys are really in trouble. Fiat snapped out some orders. The men quickly surrounded me, Fiat pulling out of his jacket a small black case, the kind diabetics carry around. By the time Drake appeared in the far end of the corridor, shoeless, wearing pants and the green silk tunic he wore at official dragon functions, and holding a wicked looking saber, Fiat had a good grip on my arm, his men hemming me on all sides. Drake skidded to a stop at the end of the hallway, his eyes narrow as he looked over our little group. Behind him, Pal appeared, followed by a couple of dragons I didn't recognize. Ashling, Drake lowered his sword and walked slowly toward us, a frown darkening his eyes. Where have you been? And what are you wearing? I pinched the back of Ronaldo's hand, but until he released his hold on my face. To hell I'm back, but that's a really long story and not one I want to go into here. This is a curtain. I'd really rather not talk about it right now either. Very well. We will leave that discussion of why you weren't clad in drapery for another time. The challenge has started. He stopped 10 feet away, still scowling at me. My lips twitched. Drake was deliberately ignoring Fiat, something I knew would irritate someone of his pride. What is wrong with your eyes? I touched the corner of my eye. I don't know. Is something wrong with them? I imagine they're bloodshot as hell. They're washed out, almost white. Drake's frown deepened. You will tell me later what happened to your eyes, too. But now you will explain why, when you were expected to be present for the start of the challenge, you were not. Where is Isfan? I have no idea. You have to ask my kidnapper that. Fiat? Drake finally looked away from me to Fiat, his gaze steady, his face mirroring nothing more than mild annoyance. I hadn't expected to see you here, Fiat. I'm sure you didn't, but as you see, Fiat waved to the small black case at our group. Here we are. I ran into Aisling earlier, and since I knew she'd want to be here, I offered to provide her with safe transport. Oh, that's a good one. Safe transport, Jim snorted. He waved a hand. Your bodyguard took exception to us escorting Aisling here. Naturally, my men defended themselves against his attack. My stomach already twisted around itself to a point where I doubted if it would ever again be normal. Gave a lurch, my palms going slick with sweat. What about Nora and Renee? What did you do to them? We had no issue with anyone else in the house, he answered, relieving my mind on at least that point. Regardless, I was still worried sick. About Isfan. Fiat, so help me God, if you've hurt Isfan, I will see that you suffer as no dragon has ever suffered before. You need not worry, Fiat said, with a smile that made my bile rise. He is no longer feeling any pain. He patted the side of my face. I jerked my head away, rage filling me. With the rage came a familiar, thick black power. I pushed it back, pulling on Drake's fire instead. Fiat burst into flames. I expected better from you, he said, shaking his head. I snarled something that wasn't very anatomically possible and lunged toward him, Jim's harsh bark echoing as the demon leaped forward. Fiat's men grabbed me by the arms, holding me back. What is going on here? Drake, I assume you are defaulting on the challenge, since you do not have the stomach to fight me further. Dmitri pushed his way forward through the people behind Drake, who continued to stand in a relaxed pose, leaning against the balustrade that ran around the upper hall. Drake looked from Fiat to Dmitri, then to me. What do you want with my mate? He asked, looking downright bored. I couldn't help from smiling. Damn, I love that man. I love the way he bluffed. I love the way he assumed that the world revolved around him. I even love the natural arrogance that was part and parcel of his makeup. Any other man would be demanding that I be handed over, but not my Drake. He had to first establish that Fiat was nothing more than a minor irritation. Then he'd get down to business. It is, as I have said, I have brought her to watch your challenge. Indeed, and what is your interest in a purely domestic matter? Fiat laughed. Purely domestic? If Dmitri wins his challenge, then the green dragons will have a new wyvern. That will affect all of the weir. Naturally, we have an interest in what happens. All wyverns do. Odd that the other two wyverns don't seem to share your level of interest, Drake said. waving his sword toward the people behind us. Do they not? Fiat turned and looked behind him. Perhaps you should inform our esteemed colleague. I'm sure Drake will understand just how important it is that a balance be maintained. A man's voice answered from behind Fiat's men. Gabriel gave me a little smile as he joined us in the hall, the smile fading as he took in the expression on my face. Drake's eyes showed surprise for a fraction of a second, gone so quickly that I wondered whether I really saw it. Certainly his face gave no indication that he was taken aback by the recreant nature of his supposed friend. I, however, had no such reservations in making my feelings known. What on earth are you doing with this snake in the grass? I asked Gabriel, nodding toward Fiat. Jim snickered. Fiat's eyes narrowed. Something significant must have happened to you to change your eyes in that way, Gabriel mused. He shook his head and answered my question. I know it must look bad, but I assure you that I am not here to betray either you or Drake. Fiat asked me to be here to mediate only, since I know there is increasing hostility between the blue and green sects. I felt it was appropriate that I be here. We do not need another sept at war. That sounded far too pat for my liking, but there wasn't much I could do until I saw exactly what Fiat wanted with me. I am in the middle of a challenge, Drake said, indicating Dmitri. I cannot just set aside to conduct negotiations with you that could well wait until morning. Fiat made one of those elegant dragon bows. He didn't do it as well as Drake, but then no one did. I did not intend to disrupt the challenge. Shit, and monkeys might fly out of my butt, but I'm not ordering up any monkey chow, Jim said. Fiat spun around to glare at Jim, his hand upraised as if he was going to strike it. Temper, Fiat, you wouldn't beat up an innocent demon in front of so many witnesses, would you? Somehow I knew that it would matter to Fiat what people thought of him. He ground his teeth for a moment, then turned back to Drake. We would be delighted to watch the challenge if you do not object. Drake was silent for a moment, his eyes flickering to me once before settling back onto Fiat. He waved toward the door he'd used to enter the hall. Not at all. It is a straightforward enough challenge, and not one that should take much longer. The points thus far have been to my advantage. Things changed, Dmitri said, suddenly, a smile on his face that I wanted to wipe clean. Come on, come, mate. Drake held out his hand for me. Your place is with the sept. I think not, Fiat said quickly, his hand hard on my arm as I took a step forward. Drake's eyes narrowed. You hold my mate hostage? Hostage is such a harsh word. Let us say, instead, that I am looking out for Ashling's best interest. We will keep her safe while you determine the outcome to this challenge. After all, were you to lose, she would no longer be your mate, and who knows what evils your successor might inflict upon her. I was speechless for a moment in the face of such absolute bull. But before I could rally my wits into responding to such an absurd statement, the third and final penny dropped. You're planning on using me to force Drake to lose, aren't you? I asked Fiat. You want him to lose, so a new wyvern will take his place. Someone who has less honor and knowledge, and who could well turn out to be nothing more than your little puppet, right? Dmitri, who had started back toward the practice room, spun around and spat out an unflattering word. Drake's sword tip moved so fast it was nothing but a silver blur. The point of it pressed against Dimitri's pulse point on his neck. A thin line of blood appeared beneath it. What did you say? Anger, hatred, and impotent fury all took turns on Dimitri's face. He swore, shoving the green dragon bystanders out of the way as he stormed back to the room. Someone badly needs to spend some time in this happy place. Jim's voice broke the tension. I laughed at Fiat's carefully masked expression. Oh, come on, Fiat. Don't tell me you didn't think this idiotic plan through. You've known Drake for what? A few hundred years. Do you seriously think he's going to do something so asinine as to hand over his set to someone else just for me? Fiat just smiled. Drake said nothing, but I could see the tension in his hands. That's just about the most ridiculous thing I've heard today. And let me tell you, I've heard some pretty ridiculous things. The Sept always has and always will come first to Drake. I know that. I accept that. You're deluding yourself if you think it's not true. I believe that the situation has changed now that you are breeding. There were a number of surprised noises from the dragons behind Drake. I glared at Fiat. I am not pregnant, and if I were, and for the 100th time this week, I'm not, it still wouldn't make a difference. Drake is Wyvern of the Green Dragons. He will be Wyvern until the day he decides he wants to pass the job on to someone else. Isn't that right, Drake? Drake looked at Fiat, not me. The Sept and Ashling are both mine, and I will not give up either of them. We shall see, was all Fiat said. Gabriel stepped forward, putting his arm around my shoulder. I think it would ease everyone's minds if I escorted Ashley to the challenge. Oh, don't for a minute think I don't have a thing or two to say to you, I told him as he gently pushed me down the hallway. Drake stood to one side, waiting until we had passed before following. Mediating is one thing, Gabriel, but this is not mediation. This is siding with Fiat for some bizarre reason. Do you really want to see Dimitri in Drake's place? Of course not. If I thought that would happen, I would have done everything in my power to stop Fiat. But you've not considered all the possibilities, as a good guardian should. All the possibilities? What other possibilities are there? He smiled, his dimples flaring. Has it not occurred to you that a show of force by Drake will do much to weaken Fiat's determination to war with him? I thought about that for a couple of seconds. He had a point. Perhaps Gabriel wasn't the villain I'd begun to paint him. I see you appreciate the fact that while Dimitri may have the letter of the Green Dragon law to back his claim to the position of Wyvern, it has always been might that has held septs. Drake has shown time and time again that he has the might to keep the sept. He simply needs to remind Fiat of that, and this is a perfect opportunity for him to do so, with little threat to himself or you. It made sense, but it still left an unpleasant taste in my mouth. You could have told us ahead of time what you were going to do. What makes you think I didn't? His dimples deepened. I recalled the night when Gabriel had held my wound. Obviously, one of the things he'd spoken to Drake about after I left the room was this situation. No wonder Drake didn't seem particularly disturbed about me being in Fiat's power. But what about poor Istvan? Was he in on it too, or was he really dead? I had to know if he was okay. Then I could relax and just go along with things. Jim, I gestured for the demon walking slightly behind me. Heal. For crap's sake, it's all I can do. To walk missing that's 3 toes now, Jim grumbled, but obeyed and scooted over next to me. Would you like to go for 4? Bah, Gabriel laughed. Sorry, demon and demon lord talk. I told him, not wanting him to overhear what I was going to ask. Would you think me horribly rude if I had a few minutes with Jim? Not at all. You walked a few steps ahead of me. giving us a bit of privacy. Behind us, Drake, Fiat, and the rest of the dragons marched along in silence. That time and space rippling thing? I asked Jim in a quiet voice. Can I do that for you too? Jim shrugged. You're the boss. Pretty much whatever you want to do, you can do. Great. I want you to go to Drake's house and look for his son. Ew, what if his body's all bloody and stuff? There may not be a body. That's what I want you to see. If he's there, fine. Or hiding or something. All right, but if anything exciting happens here and I miss it, I'm going to hold that against you for the rest of your existence. I stopped in front of the door I'd spotted and smiled a toothy smile at all the people behind me. Bio break, be right back. Drake frowned as I grabbed Jim's collar and dragged the demon into the ladies' room with me. What do you need? No, I don't want to know. Smart man, I said, blowing him a kiss as the door closed. I turned the lock and faced Jim. Right, let's do this. I took a couple of deep breaths to clear my mind, focused on the thought of Drake's house, and reaching out, selected the possibility that I wanted to use. Nothing happened. I don't seem to be able to do it. I tried again with the same result. That's because you're using dragon fire. This is a demon lord skill, Ash. You gotta use demon lord power to do it. No, sir, I shook my head. I'm not using that dark power again. That stuff is bad. And if by some miracle my soul isn't already damned for having inadvertently used it to banish Araton, I'm not going to risk it by dipping my toes into the dark power again. It's evil. Power is power, Jim said, putting its paws on the counter so it could check its teeth in the mirror. It's neither good nor bad. The person using it determines what it'll be. Oh, I thought about that for a few seconds. I wasn't quite buying what Jim said. I felt that power, and there was evil in it, but perhaps I had the ability to neutralize the bad. I weighed the revulsion I felt at using dark power with the worry that Ispen could be lying, injured, or dead somewhere, and decided that I'd have to risk using it once more. Okay, once more, but just once more, and that's it. I don't want to take any chances. I cleared my mind again, focused, and allowed myself to be filled with a thick, warm power that seemed to ooze up out of the floor to wash over me. A horrible, ripping noise filled the small bathroom, echoing off the tile walls and floor as I rented time from space, tearing a hole big enough for Jim to pass through. Overhead, two of the lights went out. The rip was right next to a sink, causing it to fall to the floor in an explosion of porcelain on tile. Two pictures fell off the wall, as well as a chunk of ceiling tile. Water jetted out of a wrenched pipe, arcing at an angle that allowed it to hit the wall behind me, splashing everything, Jim and me included, within a 10-foot radius. Fires of Abaddon, Jim exclaimed, looking with big eyes at the damage. Later, just go do what I asked. I put both hands on Jim's furry derriere and shoved it through the opening. The rip made an obscene sucking noise, closing up as the last of Jim disappeared into its maw. Ashling, the doorknob rattled. Is everything all right? I made an abortive attempt to shove some wadded up paper towels in the pipe, but it was hopeless. I simply had to make restitution with the fencing people for the damage my rip in space had caused. Yeah, fine, I'm coming. The front of my curtain toga was soaked with water, but I figured that was the least of my worries. I unlocked and hurriedly slipped out the door, quickly closing it behind me. Drake, Fiat, and Gabriel all looked at my sodden front. I had a little accident washing up. If you are through with these games, Fiat said, his eyes as chilly as his flesh. He waved toward a double door at the end of the hall. We can proceed. Right, sorry. I started after Gabriel, but paused when Drake asked, Where's Jim? It's cleaning up the water I spilled. It'll be back as soon as possible. Or as soon as I had another moment of privacy to yank it back through time and space. I hurried after Gabriel, praying he was telling me the truth about everything. It didn't explain why he didn't try to rescue me in Paris, but at least I'd feel a whole lot better about Fiat if I knew that Gabriel wasn't secretly siding with him. All right, that's the end of chapter 21. We'll pick it up on chapter 22 tomorrow. Let me see here. Right. Okay. Just saying the last page is 269. We're on page 238. Just seeing if we were going to start the next book tomorrow, which I already have here. The last one in the series, so we'll see how it all ends with her demon lording. Um, it said it was Baal. I mean, I was thinking, are they going to pull out those tools of Baal that Drake had at some point because that could bring it full circle in the end? But also, are they using it because there's only 6, so it's like, you have limited people? I don't know. We will see tomorrow. You're knocking all 4 out. Yeah, straight, so you could follow. Yeah. Um, I got some cool books for after this though, but these are kind of quick. These are fun. So yeah, I'll probably watch it tonight. I was gonna try to be up early tomorrow. We'll see. I love you so much. You get some sleep. I see you tomorrow, Monday. Love you.